Hello everybody, welcome to mail day number 4 of the mail week that we've got. So this particular shipment is from ABU Games. You know, I recently started to appreciate ABU Games a little bit more than in the past, especially when I realized how well they managed to remake their website. You know, it was a website from the early days of the internet until very recently, and they added so many different filters for the cards. It's definitely a site made for collectors, for people who appreciate different conditions, artist proofs, misprints, and so, and it's actually not that expensive for many lower end cards, and even for some high end cards it can be surprisingly cheap compared to some other websites. So had really good positive experience with them, and this is what I'm going to share with you, one of the parcels from them. So it's also quite important for me that they carry cards in different languages, quite a large inventory, and okay, here we go. Right, so there are some snowflakes here, and the most important thing is okay, they've got some unique numbers. I'm not sure what these are. I think these are the unique numbers of the cards that were, yeah, that's right. Some of the cards, which I absolutely love about this website, they already have the scans of them, and it doesn't have to be, you know, an extremely expensive card. They have this for cards that are kind of in the mid-range, and you know, you can have the particular unique ID number. This particular ID number applies to only that particular card. So basically what you see is what you get. The first card here is Tonus' Coffin. I only, you know, recently realized how interesting this card is. Has some interesting effect, especially if we talk about, you know, the counters and so, and how these counters are left on the card that goes back after this. So there can be some interesting recursion of Triskelion and which one was the other one? You know, it's always like that. Tetris, obviously. So I felt that I needed to have this in my collection, even though I for some long time did not appreciate this card. In the Eye of Chaos, one of my guilty pleasures. Why? Because this card is pretty much useless. I mean, I barely saw it in any deck lists, even the spiciest deck lists. What it does is that all instants interrupts, we don't care about them obviously, are countered unless the caster pays X, where X is the casting cost of this spell. So it's trying somehow to stop you know, these cards from being cast. Could be good Enchantress deck, I'm not sure, and this card is definitely not worth it in terms of money, but I felt that I needed this for my collection. Even an Italian copy is fine. Speaking of Italian, there is one more Italian card, Land Equilibrium. If your opponent controls as many lands as you do, and then they play land, then they have to sacrifice a land for each land that they put into play. So this is the definition of equilibrium. How to make this deck work? There was one with Mana Vortex, I think, and Land Equilibrium combo. I'm actually thinking that could even be played in some, you know, mid-range decks. Who knows, to prevent your opponent from expanding. I can see some potential in this card, unlike the Eye of Chaos. Oops, sorry about that. Arabian Archaeologist is another card we have got, and the effect is very powerful. You know, I always think that it's a pity this card is white, and not only it's white, but it also requires double white, so it's not so easily splashable. And obviously some artifact decks, some artifact archetypes that we know are black maybe for their base, you know, and maybe they involve blue, obviously for some nice synergy like copy artifact, but there's no really good synergy with white, so I'm not sure, but I think I can think of a couple of ways to use this card, so it's definitely playable. Edwin Ifrit. Edwin is actually a name. It's another vanity card, you know, with the, as you understand, what we call these, anagram in the name. And Drew Tucker, instantly recognizable, and 3/6 attacker for 3 mana. I mean, this is the brother of the Mijai Jin, I think his name is, and this is the brother that is good at attacking but not blocking, but seriously, you know, attacking 3/6 for 3 mana. This card is actually very, very good, and it's a pity I only have one copy, because it would be nice to have a place of these to incorporate them into the mana curve, but well, it is what it is. 6 toughness is, you know, basically granting him immunity from most big creatures in old school. A very good card, maybe underappreciated. King Suleiman. As soon as I saw this card back in 1999 or early 2000, I realized how powerful it is, how beautiful it is. I was blown away by the art. Now I finally have it. In my video about Library of Alexandria, this was mail day 1, I said that I think that Mark Poole is the master of colors. He manages to make them, as I said, comic book-like, maybe in some way, but still keep them rather realistic. Very bright, very saturated colors. For some reason this reminds me of, you know, the flavor of the game Diablo 2, the second act in the desert. I am not sure why, but you know, this is priceless, especially because this card is based actually on the person from, you know, the real world, not magic, so to say. Here it says Suleiman, but in the flavor text it says Solomon, and obviously this is the same name, just different spellings, and everything is epic about this card. And I think that 1/1 with a tap to destroy an Ifrit or Jinn, and you know how many playable Ifrits and Jinns, Ifrit or Genie, I'm not sure what you should say, you know how many of them there are in the old school, so I think this card is definitely good. Mind you, they're saying that it's heavily played, but if we compare it to some of the cards that were labeled good in Card Kingdom, I think this is definitely not the worst deal you could get, because you could get heavily played, you could get very heavily played, I think. Not really damaged, because I don't think they sell card labeled as damaged on the website. But I mean, what is so bad about him? I've seen cards in much worse condition labeled heavily played. Can it be that there is some ink? I don't think so, because the ink would qualify as damage. This was a story, unfortunately, with me a couple of times, some higher end cards labeled as played, and only later I discovered that there is some ink, usually after a very long time. So, okay, no need to put it into this sleeve. Yeah, and the second part of this particular package includes some unique non-high-end cards. By unique, I mean they were not represented on the website with a unique photo or scan. So, these are book promos, right? Now, speaking of book promos, there is an interesting story about these, as you know, and Nalanthi Dragon is basically just a bad version of Dragon Whelp, as you understand, because you are giving up 1 power and 2 toughness for the ability of banding. Who really needs banding? I'm not sure. If you look at this card, let's see how small the text is and how dark the whole card is. This is unique in itself, and I was actually really confused about the legality of this particular card. It's not legal in Swedish, as I know, but I was wondering about, Atlantic and Eternal Central, and people confirmed to me that it is playable. We usually hear of Arena and Sewers of Stark. Of course, Sewers of Stark is mostly a joke. But about the dragon, I had no clue, but people actually confirmed to me that he is playable. I think it could be played in a Mana Flare deck, something like that, with an extra copy of Dragon Whelp. So just decided to get a couple of copies just for $1. And after that, I saw that they're actually very difficult to get. So the story with this particular card, you may have heard, there was I think it's called Dragon Con, and oh look, okay. So you see how it works, right? Okay, basically, first of all, let's get to the story. So Dragon Con 94, I think people who attended this convention were able to get this particular card, and after it happened, many people were really, really angry because it was not fair that only people who were in that particular area and attended the convention, I mean, were able to get this card, and as a result, Wizards printed many more copies. I'm not sure how many, and they distributed it with the magazine. And I think that this is, oops, sorry. These are the media inserts, because we can definitely, this particular sign, think this is the glue that attached the card to the surface of the magazine, or whatever insert there was. So yeah, there's that. These are definitely not the cards that were got by people who attended the event. We also have Arena. Arena is actually not such a bad card. It's not such a bad card. One important thing, okay, does it have that? No, it doesn't. Okay, so it wasn't a media insert. Or I mean, as far as I remember, these were mailed to people who mailed some coupons from the books, and actually Arena is the name of the very first fiction book on magic, fantasy novel. Actually, and a rather interesting one. It really correlates with the flavor of the early sets, and there are many interesting references to the existing cards. So some people who like this kind of stuff, you should definitely start with this particular novel. I definitely recommend it to you, for magic fans. Okay, yes, about Arena, I wanted to say that the important thing is that it's important to understand that if the creature is already tapped, for instance, you have attacked, and then after that, let's say your second main phase, you can still use this ability, or maybe during your opponent's upkeep, it's even better, why not? And if your creature is already tapped, but your opponent's creature is not tapped, it's still possible to use this ability. So it's not a prerequisite to have this creature untapped. Basically, it lets you tap the potential attacker of your opponent, even if these creatures don't deal lethal damage to each other. So worth looking into that. I think it's worth looking into Arena because you can abuse it in many interesting ways. And the last card of the book promos is Sewers of Stark. Now, this is the infamous card. It's a card that doesn't make any sense, because why is Sewers an instant? I mean, it could be a land, obviously, or at least it could have been an enchantment, maybe an artifact, but why is it an instant? What are we actually doing, as many people said? Are we teleporting the said creature to the sewers for some time and making it unblockable, or maybe preventing the damage? Doesn't make any sense, extremely overcosted, and overall a terrible card to include as a promo. I mean, it's not appealing at all. So anyway, as a bonus, the art is rather nice. Melissa Benson, her trademark is always there. We'll talk about it briefly, if you haven't found all the Melissa Benson's seals, I would say. It's very nicely incorporated in here. Anyway, these are sewers. I still decided to get them 3 copies. And Living Wall. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that here. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Watch out for the next day. And I'll see you soon tomorrow. Bye.